Well, what is going on, guys? This is Tyler, and today I'm going to go through a little tutorial talking about some of the stuff I've been working on. Just kind of portion of talk about kind of how like my process and how I go about creating some of the effects I do. In this little video that I made, it's pretty simple. So we're going to go through it real quick. And so there's a couple effects that I use in here. Nothing too fancy or anything like that. I just use a couple of jump cuts to make it look like my clothes are snapping right on to my body and stuff. And I ended up adding some camera shakes to make that look a little more realistic. So here we are looking at the first jump cut. As you see, like it snaps right there and there. And then you see one problem that I had was that I didn't think about my putting my shorts on my bed, so I actually had to I needed to zoom in on the footage and kind of box out that part of the um, basically make it so that you couldn't see it in the scene. And I did that as opposed to rotoing it out because rotoing would have taken much longer, and I just didn't want to do all the work. Um, Here we have the scene where I'm in the bathroom, and this part we are actually rotoscoping every single frame because I didn't really think about this at the time. At first, it was going to be a simple mask of two different scenes, but because my hand is being thrown in front of the mirror where my other part of the body is, I go in here and I have to roto every single um, essentially every single frame. That way the finger doesn't look weird. And then you'll see here when we get to the end of this that actually looks a little finicky. I actually go back and fix that rotoscoping. So essentially this is just a simple mask, and then you're adding two clips on top of each other is essentially what's going on here. Um, when we get to the car is another jump cut scene, and I actually ran into a problem with another problem. I've run into a lot of problems that I didn't really think about. One thing, when you're making like jump cuts like this, you want to take the shot in one take. So when you're running, um, so whatever transition you're making from one to the other, whether it's putting on a shirt, jumping through a car, or something like that, you want to make sure the shot is continuously being taken, because one, you may accidentally bump your phone when you're stopping the footage, which is something that I ran into a couple times. And so it's like slightly out of place, which is the issue I ran into on the car, which made me have to reposition and add. I ended up adding some camera shake to make it look a little less jittery. And because one problem that I had, make sure there's no people in your background when you're doing this kind of stuff. Because another issue I had with the car scene was there's actually two people walking in my neighborhood. So they were walking in one part of the scene and then they weren't there in the other part of the scene, so it looked really, really weird. So I kind of did this weird uh, clone stamp kind of thing where I kind of masked them out lightly but not completely, so it kind of blends them in a little bit into the background, so they're still kind of there, but it's not as distracting as it once was. And essentially that's like the only so basically I had to animate that blending mask essentially. So that is all for this one, and then we're gonna go through my next tutorial here in a sec.